WWE superstar Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is being accused of defrauding the U.S. Army. Yeah, that's exactly right. The Army Recruiting Command is pissed that they feel like they got bilked by literally one of the biggest celebrities of all time. But is the Army so dumb and out of touch that, frankly, they probably deserve it? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about this absolutely preposterously stupid story. Okay, so this is actually not that stupid, because the U.S. Army bet $11 million that The Rock could gin up some recruitments. But in fact, they found that it may have actually made things worse and actually hurt the U.S. Army's recruiting efforts. Now, as you guys probably know, the U.S. Army is coming up way short on its recruiting goals. In fact, in 2022, the Army fell short of its goal by 25%, recruiting just 45,000 of a desired 60,000 new soldiers into the service. The Army caught up a little bit the following year, only ending up about 20% short. And of course, in classic Army fashion, when you can't actually meet the metric that you're going for, you just lower the metric. Lowering its goal down to 55,000, making it much more achievable. Go Army. The funny thing, of course, to me is that, frankly, if you survey soldiers who served, overwhelmingly, even ones who served in combat, they overwhelmingly speak favorably of their service. They're, frankly, some of the best ambassadors for the military is actually knowing someone who served in the military. It's why people joke that the Army looks a lot like a family business because, again, so many of members of the older generation actually speak so fondly of it that the younger generation goes and serves themselves. So for the military, there's a huge incentive to try to get young people to give it a shot. And believe you me, okay, the Army was good to me, all right? Yeah, sure, I had to go overseas and risk my life. No kidding there. But again, this was in 2008 when I graduated college, or rather I graduated in 2009 into the worst economy of all time. So the fact that I had a job at all was pretty nice. The fact that it was a job that paid an actual professional salary. Again, I think I made like 40 or 50 grand coming out of college in 2009. That was a nice chunk of change. And of course, I had the GI Bill, my ROTC scholarship, paid for undergrad, paid for grad school, and of course, got me access to VA healthcare, which, despite what you read on the news, has actually been pretty good to me. So you'd think that the Army would sell itself in this era of rising costs and incredibly difficult job environment, that an organization that will give you training and access to a top secret security clearance would be basically an easy sell. And yet somehow the Army cannot get out of its own way. The Army dropped $11 million on a marketing deal with the United Football League. And you're thinking to yourself, Paul, don't you mean the National Football League? No, I do not. The United Football League is the tiny upstart minor league alternative to the NFL that had its inaugural season from March to June and was a massive disappointment. Of course, the United Football League is also co-owned by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, one of the largest celebrities, at least if you use Instagram followers as a metric. And the deal that the Army signed for $11 million involved both Instagram posts from Dwayne Johnson and sponsoring the league's various teams, including having the Army logo on a number of different jerseys and Army sort of branding on different aspects of the events. Now, the UFL, of course, had a massively disappointing debut. Right? Sparsely attended home openers, basically running at a massive loss, unable to, oh my gosh, a handful of fans were in the seats 20 minutes before kickoff. Yikes. And, right, they had low watch TV slots, a schedule that came out late. There's just absolutely no way. And this is a merger between two other leagues you haven't heard of, the XFL and the USFL. Just absolutely terrible numbers. So the Army, of course, was like, that's okay. That's okay that there were such low numbers. of viewers of the UFL because we have something even better. Instagram posts from the biggest influencer in the whole world. But there's a problem. Johnson, who has 400 million followers on Instagram, the Army paid him about $1 million a post, according to the service documents that were leaked. And he was expecting 5 of them. But Johnson only made 2, Army documents show. And so the Army said, listen, you got to give us back what we spent. You did less than half of your deal. So we want $6 million back. And the Army did its own analysis of the yield and results of this campaign, right? Because even the Army's brain dead marketing team knows that you've got to track how many people actually sign up through your different channels. Otherwise, you have no idea if it works. And of course, the Army found that there was actually a net loss of recruits. That if they had just spent the $11 million on normal, regular, boring, old recruitment efforts, they would have in fact they would have gotten 38 more recruits, meaning that this entire effort netted a net loss of 38 enlistments. Why do you think this could be? Now, first off, I've done a lot of brand deals, and guess what? I don't miss. If I sign a brand deal with somebody, barring literal fraud, I always deliver on the promised terms. In fact, I often over-deliver for sponsors because I only take sponsors I believe in. It's that easy. And we all know that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is more brand than human at this point. But there's a couple of reasons why it's hard for me to feel bad for the Army Marketing Command. Right? And we're going to talk a little bit about why I think that is, but of course, I got to do some marketing of my own. And you guys know what I'm going to talk about. If you've been to a gas station, you know that everything is expensive. Inflation kicking everybody's ass. And if you're an energy drink guy, like I used to be, you know that Red Bulls and stuff, they are $5 a can. Like, unironically, actually, that is the price in a gas station. So if you're looking for an alternative, and maybe you're like a cop, a nurse, somebody who can't be carting around a can of Red Bull, you may want to check out Strike Gum. Strike Gum, it's the energy drink alternative that is chewing gum. It's minty fresh flavor. But more than that, this little piece contains all the caffeine of a Red Bull, of an Amp Energy, but 0 sugar. So there's no like sugar crash, and it's made in the USA. So you're not bankrolling some crazy Chinese company. It's veteran owned, obviously. And best of all, we use natural ingredients like natural caffeine. Right? Is it a little more expensive to use the green coffee bean derived natural caffeine? Yeah, but you know what? I think it gives you a cleaner, better energy experience. I can't prove it, but when you chew it, you know, right? And again, if you've been out there looking for an alternative to overpriced energy drinks, check out Strike Gum. You can go to strikegum.com. That's where we have our veteran discounts, our first responder discounts, new user discounts you can sign up for. All right, bunch of stuff. And we come in 5-packs, which I think is your best deal. Then you got your 1-pack if you want to check it out. And of course, the tray, 15 packs, right? If you're looking for the best per unit deal, if you know you love it. And you can also get it on Amazon. So just go to Amazon and search for Strike Gum. The link's in the description. You'll see all the reviews people have left. They love them. And I see the reorder data, right? We have so many more reorders than I ever thought we were going to get, which is silly because, again, it's people buy energy drinks, and once they chew this, they go, well, okay, well, this is better. So check it out. Okay, let's talk about why I don't have really all that much sympathy for U.S. Army Marketing Command spending big bucks on Dwayne friggin' Johnson. One, Dwayne Johnson is a 50-year-old man. He's your dad's age. He's the age of the fathers that the Army, that the recruits need. Guess what? Dwayne Johnson himself cannot serve in the Army. He cannot. He is too old to enlist. Second, you may notice in his career, he has never done anything associated with the military. In fact, he's never done anything even remotely adjacent to public service. Right? He was a multi-sport athlete in high school. He played football in college. Then he got recruited and was a second stringer on he was not drafted out of the University of Miami. Just played with a Canadian Football League team. There we go. And then became a professional wrestler. So you have a brand ambassador for a something like the military who's never set foot in the Army. Okay, I get it. But there's so many other brand ambassadors for the Army, right? Like the PSYOP girl. The PSYOP girl's kind of weird. But you know what? She's good at her job. She makes being in the Army look kind of weird, but like it kind of is. And if you don't mind like weird, sort of difficult, kind of fun stuff, well, she kind of captures that aspect of being in the military, being in the Army, certainly. I don't know what, Dwayne doesn't even know what he's selling. Because again, he's a 52-year-old man who's never worn a uniform in his life. That's not to talk shit. He's a good professional wrestler. He's a good actor. He's got more Instagram followers than I do. But that's not the same thing as being a natural brand fit. Why else do I think Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and his UFL are absolutely garbage fits? Well, here's a profile from YouGov of the typical Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson fan. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, right? Of course, 8 Fast and Furious movies, right? And they look at the typical Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson fan. They describe themselves as big-hearted, patient, and goofy, but occasionally forgetful, cold, and distrustful. Johnson's fans tend to be middle-aged men in rural environments. They lean a little Republican and work in military and defense and make between $20,000 and $50,000 a year. Guess what, guys? That's not the profile of a new recruit. That's the profile of the officers in charge of Army marketing. Middle-aged Republican dudes working in the military. Those are the people, right? They love Car and Driver, Guns and Ammo, and Playboy. These are middle-aged dudes running Army Marketing Command. They're trying to recruit themselves. They're not trying to recruit Zoomers. And the fact is, the UFL, guys, buying TV spots is completely, insanely stupid. The article literally points it out. Zoomers, Gen Z, doesn't watch television and doesn't give a shit about sports. 33% of Gen Zers don't watch any live sports at all. And 22% of millennials, right? So literally almost 50%, a Gen Zer is 50% more likely than a millennial to not watch any live sports. And UFL deal costs about half of what the Army spent on NCAA advertising. But their viewership on an average NCAA game is 10 times that of the UFL, according to the Army's own internal metrics. They also said the UFL literally had no idea how to have a brand partnership, which is also insane because I'm one dude and I know how to have a brand partnership, right? And here's the thing that kind of it kicks me in the ass. First off, the U.S. Army is actually banned from advertising on TikTok because TikTok is owned by the Chinese. And the Army does not want China to get a hold of its recruitment data. It would be worse if TikTok was a successful recruitment channel. Because then the Chinese would literally know to the soldier where the U.S. Army is getting its personnel from. And it would know potentially a lot about them. So the fact is that, yeah, in some ways, the Army is sort of constrained. But buying TV ads, now one of the things they point out is that when you have an 18, 19-year-old trying to decide if they want to join the military, they also need their parents to sign off on it. They need their parents to buy off on joining. And that is itself its own sort of recruitment battle. And the Army says, listen, we want dads to be into the military. But guess what? If you're a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson fan, you already are a middle-aged Republican dude who loves guns and already works in the military. As we know, they don't need persuading. They're literally already in the military. Having a parent in the military is probably one of the best predictors that you will join the military. So how do you reach Gen Z, the right Gen Zers? Some of them you're never going to reach. Some of them, it's a waste of your time to try to get them, right? Like turbo, super, burn America to the ground left wingers, you're not going to reach them. Just like you're not going to reach the super crazy, unhinged right-wing 18-year-olds who are like fucking the globe. You know, both of them, both sides, they have these like globe is collapsing, don't burn America to the ground mentality. So just get rid of them. Don't even try to reach those people. And they're generally the super terminally online. So just throw out that. What you want to reach is the 18 and 19-year-olds who are like, yo, what do I want to do, and why is the Army a good place for it? And again, the crazy part is that the Army is such a stinking good deal. That's what kicks me in the ass, right? Is that, okay, you're 19 years old. Maybe you don't want to go to college. Maybe you do, but it's really expensive. It's stupid expensive. Guess what? The Army, one, they'll pay you to go to college before or after your service, right? You can do it before, get an ROTC scholarship, commission as an officer, make a little extra money, get treated a little bit more with in some ways, more like an adult. Or you could do your time, get your GI Bill, go to school for free, right? Instead of having to slave away paying off your debts. But then there's more perks. One, you get VA healthcare. And trust me, you don't, when you're 19, it doesn't sound like that's that helpful. But when you're 27 and you're spending $600 a month just to not be able to see a doctor, all of a sudden going into a VA hospital and just logging into My Health eVet and being like, "Hey, let me see about my allergies." They go, "Great, see you in 2 weeks." And the copay is $20. Last year, my entire healthcare, I spent less than $100. Not in copays, the total expenses. Okay? So I tell you this, and then, of course, you get a top secret clearance if you choose the right job, which you absolutely should. If you can qualify for it, you should do it. And then you get actual job experience, right? That's what I was able to do. When I left the Army, I went to grad school, got my graduate degree paid for by the taxpayer. And then when I applied to jobs, I jumped to the front of the line because I was a veteran. It's a stupidly good deal. Again, it's harder when you have a family, right? The military has a lot of downsides for families. But how many 19-year-olds that the Army wants to recruit, how many of them are sitting there and being like, I got to provide for my 6 kids? Like, no. Just, it's not that hard. And yet the Army is like fucking it up. Again, I strongly suspect that if I was in Army Recruiting Command or their marketing department, that there would be a bunch of young officers, maybe some young NCOs, who are screaming at the top of their lungs to just run social media ads. And then there's a couple of boomer generals who don't have to listen to their subordinates who go, I know how to reach them kids. How about that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson guy? He's young and sprightly. And it's like, he's 52 and he stars in movies about cars. Half your fucking Zoomers can't even drive a car. They don't give a fuck about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And the fact that they wallow in ignorance, right? That the Army is just like, it collects all the data and then it gets ignored by generals who, again, you're sitting in Army Recruiting Command as a 1-star or a colonel. You probably spent your junior career as like an armor officer driving tanks. Bro, I get it. You commanded a tank battalion, but now you have to market to kids. Half of them probably don't even have kids that are fucking Zoomers. Anyway, that's all I had. Rant complete. Thanks to our Curdle tier members, combatvetnews.com. Martin Baum, Greg Pace, Stuart Abel, Daniel Brown, James Ola, Chris Holmes, and Chris Gorsuch. New combat vid, uncensored, dropping tomorrow. Straight from the Ukrainian front lines. Going to be wild. And be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. That stuff helps. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.